You should understand about the system that allowed this to happen. Some people had minimal contact and cut ties quickly when they sensed something relationships with Epstein well after his 2008 conviction, and those relationships demand scrutiny and explanation. Story is very simple as you have bad company, so if you are meeting your bad friend, you will one day have allegation, but here's what most people don't understand. These weren't the Epstein files everyone thought they were getting. And the real story of how these documents came to light is far more complex than a simple release. In January 2024, over 900 pages of sealed court documents were finally released to the public. What they contained would shake the foundations of power across the globe. Names you know, places you've heard of, and allegations that connect billionaires, politicians, and royalty to one of the most disturbing criminal conspiracies in modern history. I'm going to walk you through the entire history, from the first lawsuits to the latest revelations. And by the end, you'll understand why this case is far from over. Before we dive into the files, you need to understand who Jeffrey Epstein was, and why his case became one of the most scrutinized legal battles in American history. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just wealthy, he was connected. A financier who moved in circles with presidents, princes, and tech moguls. He owned a private island in the Caribbean, a mansion in Manhattan, and a ranch in New Mexico. In 2005, parents in Palm Beach, Florida reported that their daughters had been sexually abused by Epstein. The police investigation uncovered a systematic operation. Epstein was paying young girls, some as young as 14, to give him massages that would turn into sexual abuse. And here's where it gets disturbing. He recruited these girls to bring him more girls. It was a pyramid scheme of exploitation. In 2008, Epstein cut a deal that would become infamous, a non-prosecution agreement that let him plead guilty to just 2 state prostitution charges. He served only 13 months, mostly in a private wing of the jail, with work release privileges that let him leave for 12 hours a day. But that 2008 deal wouldn't hold forever. In 2019, after investigative reporting brought new attention to the case, Epstein was arrested again, this time in New York, on federal sex trafficking charges. He would never stand trial. On August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling, suicide. But the circumstances fueled endless conspiracy theories that persist to this day. So where did these Epstein files actually come from? The documents released in January 2024 weren't from Epstein's criminal trial because he never had one. They came from a civil defamation lawsuit that had been settled years earlier. Here's the story. In 2015, a woman sued Epstein's longtime associate and alleged accomplice for defamation. Women claimed that he had trafficked her to powerful men when she was a minor. The associate got sued by the women. That lawsuit was settled in 2017, but the case generated thousands of pages of depositions, witness statements, and evidence, all sealed by the court. For years, journalists and researchers fought to unseal these documents. They argued the public had a right to know what was in them, especially given the public interest in Epstein's crimes. In 2019, a federal appeals court ordered many of the documents to be unsealed. They were released in batches over the following years. But the big moment came on January 3, 2024, when a federal judge ordered the release of nearly 200 additional documents, about 900 pages in total, containing names that had previously been redacted. The world was watching. When those files dropped, the internet exploded with speculation. But here's what they actually contained, and what they didn't. First, let's be clear. These documents included the names of over 150 people. But being named in these files doesn't mean someone was accused of wrongdoing. The documents included victims and witnesses who gave testimony about what they experienced or observed, Epstein's associates and employees who were deposed about their knowledge of his activities, People who allegedly had contact with Epstein or visited his properties, law enforcement officials, and lawyers involved in the case. Some of the high-profile names that appeared, Epstein positioned himself as a patron of science. He funded research programs, hosted scientific conferences, and surrounded himself with Nobel laureates and leading researchers. For tech CEOs who saw themselves as visionaries, this gave him credibility. He wasn't just a money manager, he was supposedly funding the future. Trump was mentioned in testimony, though one witness stated she had never seen Trump on Epstein's island, and another described him as a friend of Epstein's in the early 2000s. Other names included prominent academics, scientists, business people, and politicians, many of whom were simply mentioned in passing or in contexts that didn't suggest wrongdoing. But here's what shocked people most. The documents contained graphic testimony from victims describing systematic abuse. They detailed how Epstein's operation worked, the recruitment, the grooming, the trafficking to his various properties. And this associate was described repeatedly as the orchestrator, the one who would recruit young girls and facilitate Epstein's abuse. These were allegations made in depositions. They weren't criminal convictions. Many of the people named have denied any wrongdoing, and being mentioned in the documents doesn't prove guilt. The release of these documents didn't end the Epstein story, it intensified it. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. She was convicted in 2021 of sex trafficking and conspiracy charges. She's appealed, but as of now, she remains behind bars. But many questions remain unanswered. Who else was involved? The documents mention numerous people, but relatively few have faced legal consequences. What happened to Epstein's wealth? His estate has paid out settlements to victims, but questions remain about how he made his money and who benefited from his financial dealings. How did he get the 2008 sweetheart deal? Congressional hearings examined this, but many feel the full story hasn't been told. Was his death really suicide? Official investigations concluded it was, but broken cameras, sleeping guards, and procedural failures have left many skeptical. The documents released in January 2024 weren't everything. There are still sealed files, ongoing investigations, and civil cases that could reveal more. In fact, there are active lawsuits against Epstein's estate, against financial institutions that allegedly facilitated his activities, and potentially against individuals who haven't yet been publicly named. The victims' advocates say this: the focus should be on the survivors and on accountability, not on celebrity gossip. Hundreds of women came forward about abuse by Epstein. Their testimonies made these prosecutions possible. Their courage brought this case to light. So why does this case continue to captivate public attention? Because it reveals how power can corrupt justice. Epstein's wealth and connections got him a plea deal that let him continue abusing victims for over a decade. His powerful friends remained mostly untouched. The system failed his victims repeatedly. The release of these documents was a victory for transparency, showing that even in cases involving powerful people, public pressure and legal persistence can force information into the light. But it also shows the limits of that transparency. Many people named in these files will never face charges. Some allegations can never be proven, and Epstein himself escaped accountability through death. The case has also become a symbol, sometimes distorted by conspiracy theories, sometimes politicized by people with agendas. The truth is complicated. Not everyone mentioned is guilty. Not every allegation has been proven, but the core facts remain. Epstein ran a sex trafficking operation, powerful people were in his orbit, and the justice system gave him preferential treatment for years. The Epstein files are a window into one of the darkest criminal cases of our time, but they're not the full picture, and they're not the end of the story. More documents may be released, more investigations may unfold, more survivors may come forward. The real story isn't about one person. It's about a system that protected him because powerful people benefited from knowing him. And for the victims of Epstein, justice is still delayed. Drop your thoughts in the comments, but keep it respectful. This is about accountability and understanding how power works, not about attacking individuals without evidence. If you want to stay updated as more information emerges from these files, hit that subscribe button, because the full story is still coming out. See you in the next one.